Greetings, brothers and sisters. Hello and welcome back to Eva's House of Spirit. I'm Eva, and today I wanted to do a VR to Taliesin Mcknight. My VR is actually to a very old video that he did. The video's title is The Herd Mentality, I'll Think For You. This video was uploaded on July 19th of 2010, and how I came across it is that I decided that, how I always encourage discussion. I thought, maybe I should discuss things more with others. Maybe I should VR a little more to content posted by others. So I was looking through Taliesin Mcknight's videos and I was thinking, maybe, I really respect him as a magical practitioner and I really enjoy the content he puts out. And I thought, well, maybe I could find something that he's done to VR too. And the reason why I chose the herd mentality, I'll think for you, as the video I'd like to VR to, is that that is one thing that has bugged me forever, that people do tend to, they tend to follow the herd a lot. They tend to not think for themselves as much as they probably should, at least in my view. And it's something that just really irks me because it's always sort of been my nature to not follow the herd. Growing up, I will say, I didn't have a lot of friends because of this, but would I do things differently? No, if I could go back, I don't think I would. I think not following the herd, for as long as I could remember, I think it gave me a lot of really positive, it led to a lot of positive understandings. I think through thinking for myself, I was able to cultivate a sort of wisdom that, through experience, that had I followed the herd, I don't think I would have so much gathered. And there's a freedom in thinking for yourself. So anyway, this is why I chose this video to do this VR to. I have here on my laptop screen some little notes that, just to keep me on topic. So if I look off to the side or if I appear to be reading something, it's because I'm kind of referring to my little notes that I made as I was watching Taliesin's video. So I guess I'll jump right in. Taliesin did touch upon briefly in his video that when we go to school, particularly here in America, I mean, I haven't had experience with schooling really in any other country, so when I speak about school, I'm going to be speaking about the school system in America because that's what I have experience with. I've never been in school in any other country, so how would I know how their, methods of raising children happen to be? But Taliesin did touch upon how, there is a sort of herd mentality, especially among children in schools, and children are sort of forced to, well, not forced, but they're sort of put in a position that they really need to follow, obey, their teachers and people in the school system. And one thing that I came to discover a while back is that there actually is a psychology by which American children are raised through school, which encourages herd mentality. This has been confirmed for me by my sister-in-law, who happens to be a teacher. I did ask her, like, is this true? Because I had the suspicion that it was true, and she said yes. There actually is a psychology like that by which children are raised. And I guess it's a psychology that is sort of encouraged, or, it's a way of leading these children in their in their time in school, so that they are easier to, teach things to. They are easier to, I don't want to say command, but control maybe. It's really hard to teach someone or lead someone, you know, in an educational sense if they are just totally thinking for themselves and they don't want to hear what you have to say. So that's probably why they do it, to sort of control the children and lead them a little more easily. Because children that have that sort of herd mentality, they're just going to, listen, obey, follow. They're not going to rock the boat. And honestly, even in the U.S. Armed Forces, they generally like recruits, from what I understand. I've never been in the armed forces, but I'll tell you right now, from what I understand, they like their recruits to be kind of on the younger side. There is a cutoff age, which I forget what it is, but they like to take them younger, and I think the same reason, stands true. It's because when someone is younger, they are less set in their ways, and they tend to not sort of have, they haven't probably formulated their own sort of way of thinking individually so much, because maybe, they're lacking experience, so they're still kind of formulating their opinions about the world and so on and so forth. So they're easier to, train and sort of lead. Um, that's at least my theory. If any of you have been in the armed forces and you know about this, I'd like to hear if you find this to be true. So please, I welcome your comments. And if I'm wrong, do correct me. Anyway, so there is a purpose, I guess, in some cases, in some settings, where herd mentality is implemented for the purpose of control or leadership. Sociologically speaking, following the herd, so to speak, um, it's a matter of getting along in society. If you're not getting along in society, your needs are probably not going to be met very well, and in some cases, um, following the herd can even be a matter of survival, particularly in historical cases, but at times even in modern day society. Depending what it is that you know, do or say, I mean, you can find yourself sometimes, depending what it is, if it's something that is not socially acceptable, you can find yourself in some really, really hot water, so to speak. But considering like history, European history particularly, when they had indentured servants like serfs, working land, you kind of had to sort of follow the herd. You had to go along with the system for the sake of survival, particularly when the raiders came. If you weren't, an obedient, um, you know, if you weren't an obedient subject, then when the raiders came, you would not be allowed into your, you wouldn't be part of the system. And if you're not part of the system, you have nowhere really to run when the raiders come. You know, um, and you had to kind of be Christian too, or you'd find yourself in some pretty hot water, or you could find yourself dead. Um, so being a loyal and obedient subject who happens to be Christian, in that whole you know servitude situation with the indentured servants, with the serfs working the lands, when the raiders would come, so long as you were cool with your lord, you could run into sanctuary of his castle and kind of be a little more protected, because if you had nowhere to go, you were screwed. So, I mean, even then, following the herd kind of served a purpose, though it sucked that you had to do that in order to ensure your survival. There was a reason for it at that time. In modern day, I think what tends to drive more people to not think so much for themselves is probably fear of isolation or ostracism. I really think these might feed herd mentality, being that especially we as human beings are social animals, and being, alone or outcast by the masses, by the majority, it can have a negative effect on us, mentally and emotionally. And, like, you need connections, you need to have a support system for the most part, from my understanding anyway, in order to be a fairly balanced and healthy human being. But I think there's like a fine line though. While people may fear being outcast or ostracized, and therefore they don't so much think for themselves, or they don't so much go their own way, there are plenty of people who think for themselves and do things, in their own way, that aren't ostracized and aren't outcast by the majority. So, I mean, the question then is, what is fear? Is fear a paper tiger in this case? What exactly would you be doing? That would be so horrible. And I will say too, not everyone's going to love every idea or action that you have or do, but everyone doesn't have to love you, So if that's the case, if what drives some of us to not so much go out on a limb and, think outside the box or think for ourselves, if what it is that really drives, that herd mentality, or that hesitation to be original, or just to be genuine to the self, if what feeds that is fear of isolation or ostracism, I would say think twice about that, because again, like I said, everyone doesn't have to love you, and there are a lot of people, probably if you think about it, you can think of a few who are actually quite popular and quite loved for their originality and for their, being different. And finally, I'd like to touch upon how Taliesin spoke a lot about consequences, driving herd mentality, driving obedience. I think to a degree, yes, they likely do play a significant role in herd mentality, in our drive to obey. But I think that's only one facet of the multifaceted reasoning behind the hesitancy to not follow. I believe, like Taliesin said in his video, question everything. You should even question the things I say, just like he said in his video. Question what he says. I think that is some really good advice, because I don't think that we should ever really follow anything unquestioningly. But yeah, so this is what I have to say in response to Taliesin Mcknight's video. I hope you found it interesting, thought-provoking, and so on and so forth. I will be linking the herd mentality, I'll think, for you below in the description. And so if you want to watch that, you can watch that. And with that, I wish you blessed be and Ashe. Have a great night. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, anything you want to add or bring forward, feel free to put that down in the comment section, and I will try to address your comments as much as I am able, or as soon as I am able. And until our next exchange, until next time, bye-bye for now.